who has a lisp is something like that to grab onto. You can relate to that. Or anybody who knows somebody who has any, it's just a medical condition that it's rare, but not rare to the point where, something you can't believe. It's an eye condition. People deal with that. And her life is modified in certain ways around that. She has contact lenses that make her eyes itch, and that's involved in her personality. Other than that, she's the sensible one. She's the one you're most expected to relate to. She's not the only one you can relate to, but the one most readers, if you see yourself or aspire to be a leader, if you see yourself as the sensible one, or you know somebody, if you're the type of person who I'm not the sensible one, but I know this person who's the sensible one in my life, then you can see where Georgia is in your life. In that case, you'll probably see yourself as Sean, or if you're completely removed from it, you might see yourself as Buffy, but still the Georgia in your life. By the way, I mentioned her name is Georgia. That has to do with George Romero. It's not the type of fiction where fiction of the real world doesn't exist. It knows fiction exists. There's not only the non-fictional comedians and things, it does dip into real fiction. It doesn't steal from them, it doesn't draw heavily into them, but it alludes to Night of the Living Dead, George Romero. I personally might have preferred if it went into more obscure titles, but I don't really begrudge it that either. It's 599 pages. I can't really be pissed off because it didn't stick more shit in there. I do have one major criticism of this book, and it's not the book as a book. It's a criticism because this is a trilogy. There are 3 books, they're all the same story, and I'm sure the entire thing is going to be as well characterized, as well fleshed out, but the way the first book plays out, the way the climax is, the way the ending is, the changes that occur in the characters, the changes that occur in the world, it cannot go higher. And I don't just mean the next book can't be better, it has to be as good. I mean the characters cannot go any higher. They can do different things, but it's almost like they're forced to retire from your hero to your mentor. Hold on, I'm trying to find a non-Star Wars reference here. Your characters cannot be Aragorn anymore. They're forced into being Gandalf. So that, and on top of other reasons, there's certain characters, any good novel, there are certain characters, for whatever reason, they're obviously not going to be around in any sequel. Certain characters that are really important, I'm trying to say this without hating on the fact that the character is gone, but certain characters that help push the novel from a 10 to an 11 out of 10. The sequels lacking them will automatically put a cap on where the sequel can be. It would be like if Return of the Jedi did not feature Han Solo. Return of the Jedi would still be an excellent movie, but lacking Han Solo. And by the way, I do think this character is more important to this saga than Han Solo is to his, at least in the films. But lacking Han Solo would bring the film down. So it's in that way that I think this book, ending and carrying out the way it did, climaxing the way it did, should have been a standalone novel, or that should have been the ending. It's like if in Lord of the Rings, Frodo went to Mount Doom in the beginning, before the ring was destroyed. If Frodo's first adventure culminated through the war and Mordor, and then he continued to go on the quest and Moria and met Gollum, it would still be an epic story, but the sequels therefore will suffer. They will be sequels. They will be The Matrix Reloaded. They will be Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, so on and so forth. So that's my major criticism, is that as a trilogy, basically I'm saying Feed is too good for it to have sequels. So yes, I'm saying that this book is so good, it's too good to have been published. And I'm surprised some dickhead publisher didn't see that and be, oh, this book is too good for the trilogy, so we're not publishing it because it will cost the sales of the second. That's the type of book this is. This is the type of book that the average business person would say, we can't publish something this good, it will cost us money in the future. In the end, it's an excellent book, excellent story, excellent characters, excellent setting. I never thought I'd be involved in a political thriller, but here I am. It's not that much of a horror novel. It's satisfying to fans of horror, but don't go into this looking for a slasher flick. Don't go into this looking for a Dawn of the Dead. Don't go into this looking to be terrified in a non-thriller type of way. Don't look into this, like you'd look into a haunted house It's not a horror story in that way. It's not an exploitation novel. It's, you know, it's not Pieces. It's not something like that. What it is a horror setting with interesting characters doing suspenseful things with climactic results. And what it also is a novel the type of which are released maybe once every 10 years. Stephen King has maybe 5, maybe 10. I doubt 10. He put out a novel a year for 30 years. I doubt he has 10 books I could come up with quickly that top Feed. It's that type of book. It's just one of those career starters. I know Mira Grant's other name, which I don't know how to pronounce, so I'm not going to try to say it. I know she's not a brand new author, but at the same time, she's starting the pen name of Mira Grant as her horror writing alter ego, and Feed is the book to start a new pen name like that. For a new author, it would be the same thing. It's Mira Grant's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Yes, I said philosophers, I did not say sorcerers. It's Mira Grant's Silence of the Lambs. You know, Silence of the Lambs is the type of book I would compare this to, in addition to the other ones I have. So, that's Feed. It's one of the best books I've read in years. It definitely picked me up. It definitely hit me at a time when I was tired of the way I was reading, when I felt like I was reading for the sake of continuing to read instead of for the sake I was reading. Feed broke me out of that slump. Feed got me interested in reading again. Feed is a book that I've wanted to review for months, and it was just so good that I had to do a video of it, even though I had no good reason to. That's Feed. I cannot wait for Blackout, Deadline. I will be picking them up. If they won't give me a free copy to review and promote them for free, then I'll buy them and promote them for free. Because if they're anything like Feed, then they've just earned me as a returning customer, even though I'm fucking broke and I can't even afford the things that I used to promise I would buy every time they were released. But then again, Feed is paperback. It's not going to be like Star Wars and put out a 9-book hardcover series and expect me to pay for that. Alright, Jason's out, motherfuckers.
The chronicles of Lord Eurus continue. Lord Eurus appeared in the dead cold of the night. The desert stretched as far and as wide around him as his glowing crimson eyes could see. His armor seemed to blend in with the shadows of the night, only his sapphire skin, obviously not of this world, made him stand out. As he surveyed the darkness, the zombies came. First 2, then 4. Soon there was no counting them. The hideous creatures advanced, obviously intent on making this stranger their next meal. With a glare that hid a mental smirk, Eurus silently commanded them to serve him, much as he had zombies created by himself and by others of his order. But yet the undead did not heed his command. His brow furrowed as his necromantic prowess proved insufficient. Furiously he shouted oaths and commands, curses and spells in the dead language with which he performed his dark rituals. Several of the zombies faltered, and some even fell to his power, but none turned to serve him. Obviously, the truth was that his powers were not as potent, not as far-reaching in this strange universe. The Dark Lord raised a hand to the nearest group of undead and unleashed his rage in an electric burst. The nearest zombie was struck by the lightning, its darkened entity's skin blistering and charring. Lord Eurus had not yet found his final destination, but he would continue on, He would survive. He always has.